Hi guys, welcome to Learn Tech from Zero. Today we'll be covering further CCNA topic. So let's begin with today's topic, which is today we'll be covering the network topology for WAN, so a wide area network. So let's begin with WAN. So what is a WAN? A wide area network. WAN is a network that connects multiple local areas, LANs, over large geographical areas, such as between different cities, countries, and regions. LANs are usually within one location, and WAN connects these LANs together using service provider networks like the internet service provider or telecom communications. So in other words, LAN allows multiple branch offices. So in simple words, let me just show you a picture. So you can see that on the picture, this is one private area. Let's say this is your private area. Let's say this is your home. Okay, so this is one of your computer. This is the second computer. That's your, let's say, your brother's computer. Let's say one of the server that you have. So that's a LAN, a private area. And then let's say this is your friend's private LAN, local area. So that, let's say these are his computers and servers. And let's say this is another one of your friends. So we are using the friends example so that it's easier for new students to understand. But we can also um, take an example of, let's say, businesses. So this is one business, and that's let's say this is one business in London, and they have another office in, let's say, New York in the US, and then let's say they have another office in, let's say, another city. So what happens is these are all private areas, so anything before the router is a private area. So let's say when you are accessing the internet, so before you access the internet, that's the local area. Whenever you access the internet, whenever your data goes through your traffic to the internet, so when we say internet, normally when you search something from your computer, it goes from your router to your internet service provider, and then they route it to other networks, and that's how the communication happen. So when we say LAN in simple terms, it's basically all the devices, the network before the router, before you access the internet. And when local areas communicate with each other, the whole network is called WAN. So WAN is wide area network, is when LAN in different areas they can access internet and communicate with each other. So that's wide area network in simple terms. So why WANs are needed? Organizations use WANs when they have multiple sites. So let's say one company, they have different branches. In our previous example, and if they need to like connect with each other, they will need WAN, because if your office is in a different city, you cannot have the same network or the same connections or the same cabling to connect everything together. So because of the large areas, you need to have WAN connections between your local area network. So right now we are using a business example. So organizations, they use WAN, the network topology, to connect multiple sites. If there one office, let's say different offices, etc. I don't want to go read them in read all of them. It will take a lot of time, so I'm just going to give you an overview of everything. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment. So why WANs are needed? Because it covers large areas. Then you need service provider involvement. For creating a LAN, local area network, you don't need your service provider. But whenever you want to access internet, you need your service provider. Same way, to connect different sites, different office buildings in different areas and cities, you need your internet provider. And they are slower than LAN, obviously higher cost. These are the key characteristics of WAN we are talking about. And they use different technologies, and the reliability and redundancy. WANs are designed for high uptime using redundant paths and failover systems. So there is a more reliability and redundancy because we are accessing the external internet, and everything has to make sure that it's all protected and encrypted. So there is higher, like better technologies, and we have multiple paths to make sure that everything is done smoothly and reliably. So this is why its reliability and redundancy is there. It's one of the key characteristics of WAN. All right, let's just go with the next one. So there are two types of WAN connections. One is a private WAN connection, and there is a public WAN connection. When we say private WAN connections, so basically for both private and public, you will need your internet service provider to give you access to the internet. But when we say private, you get your own dedicated cabling or connections or circuits, we call them. So what happens is you will get your own dedicated leased lines that will connect all your sites together. So this will cost more. And public WAN connection is you are accessing the public internet, the normal internet that you have, and basically that's it. So when you connect different sites using, let's go with the first example. So if you want to have a private WAN connection, when you have different buildings and offices in different cities and countries, and if you want to connect them together privately, then these are the types of private connections. One is called leased line, point to point. So a dedicated physical connection. So there is just one connection, which is a dedicated physical connection just for your own sites. And then there is another technology is called MPLS. So what happens is when it normally takes the same internet, like the same public internet, but your data, your the communication will have labels. Not it will not follow the IP routing. You don't need to know too much about MPLS right now. This is for future networking. So if you want to become like a high level network engineer, or if you want to become, if you want to get into the depth of networking, then you will be learning all of this now. So you don't have to worry about this for the time being. So you need to understand that these are MPLS is a private WAN connection. And then metro internet. So metro internet is basically if your if the building sites and office sites are within the city, then you use the metro ethernet. So you need to remember metro means within the city. So within the same, let's say if you're in London, so your other sites and offices are in London. So you need to remember that. So metro, anytime when you say metro ethernet, it means private and it's within the city. So public WAN connections, you are literally using the normal internet connection that we everybody use. So for you to connect different sites, you can use the same broadband connection like DSL, cable, fiber, and then you can use VPN softwares to connect between different networks. So this is very common. So a lot of companies, or like or a lot of employees, when they connect to their work sites, they normally use VPNs. And then you have a cellular 4G and 5G. So if you're using the the mobile carrier like 4G and 5G, you're using public WAN. So these are the types of public WAN. That's it. And then these are the devices within WAN. So router is one of the devices that connects LAN to WAN. So you need a router to connect to WAN, like the wide area. And every time when we say WAN, it means the external network. It means the internet. WAN means internet. So you need a router to access internet. And then you have CSU and DSU, channel service unit and data service unit. Sometimes these are built in with your router, the one you have at home. And then you also have like dedicated separate devices. It converts digital data from a router to a formatable format suitable for WAN transmission. So when we are communicating within the local area network, the protocol is called Ethernet. And then when we are communicating to the external internet, the WAN, then obviously the communication and everything else is a bit separate and different. So this CSU and DSU, it converts your LAN connection to WAN connection. And then you need a modem. Right now all the routers, they have like built-in modem, and or you will have a dedicated device. So modem is one of the WAN device that you basically you need to connect from LAN to WAN, so connecting to the um, internet. And then you have VPN. So VPN is also, I've also already given you an example that you can use VPN to connect to different sites in different areas or cities using the public internet, but you will have a secure tunnel because you're using VPN. It's a secure. The reason for VPN is because you have a private network within the public network, but it will have more encryption in place. So everything else, so it's more secured way to communicate using the public internet. That's the whole purpose of VPN. And then you have WAN topology. So these are the four different like the network design for WAN topologies for connecting different sites for a company. So point to point, hub and spoke, full mesh, partial mesh. Point to point means direct link between two sites, which is this one. So you can see that site A, site B, there is a router, and it's directly connected with one cable. And then you have that hub and spoke. Central side hub connects to remote side spokes. So you can see that this is a hub, this one is a hub, that's the head office, and then you have branches, and they're all connected and as spoke A, B, C. So this is the central office, and then you have branches, and so this is like one of the designs of WAN. You don't need to know too much about WAN right now for CCNA exam. CCNA exam is more about configuring switches and routers, and knowing a lot about IP routing and IP addresses, converting them, subnetting, etc. So it's more about configuration. So you don't need to know too much in details about WAN. So this is something that you can in the future, if you're interested of working for, let's say, an internet provider, then you can learn more in details, like in depth about WAN. So there are like other courses or like certificates that you can always learn. So the good thing about IT is like there are really good certificates out there that which will teach you everything about a certain role. So you don't necessarily need to know everything, and it's really good to get into specific role. Like for example, if you finish CCNA, you will not become a software developer. So CCNA is about networking. If you want to become a software developer, there are separate courses. Same way, if you want to work for an ISP, if you want to become a cyber security analyst, so there are separate courses out there. So if you're interested, you can always ask, you can always research, and you can find those relevant courses. So you don't need to know too much about WAN. You just need to understand the design, how it works, etc. And on all this information, just read them. Just make sure that you practice the questions at the end, and you should be okay. These are the protocols. So you have LAN protocols, and then we have WAN protocols. So WAN protocol, when we say protocols, so basically that way the LAN and WAN can communicate with each other. And when we say WAN protocols, they will make sure that all the data are sent through to different local area networks. So basically the internet should work properly with those protocols. So these are the protocols. You don't need to know too much details about those protocols. Just need to know that these are WAN protocols. HDLC is one of the Cisco protocols. So this is only Cisco like it's just vendor specific. So it's related to Cisco. Every time you see HDLC, it's anything. It's basically something to do with Cisco for leased LAN connection. So when you are leasing, like renting, like private connections. So this is something for Cisco HDLC. Point to point is one of the protocols for connecting direct. I've already showed the diagram where is the direct connection. So it's more advanced than HDLC. Supports authentication, PAP, CHAP. You don't need to know them for right now. Then you just need to know that these are the protocols that we have within the WAN. So another one is frame relay, packet switching, WAN technology, mostly replaced by MPLS. So MPLS, this one replaced this relay legacy. When we say legacy, it's a very old method. It's not in place anymore. So MPLS is the modern, which uses the labels. So MPLS, we have already discussed, it's a private WAN connection. You can see MPLS. It uses labels rather than IP routing table. And then you have, the next one is Ethernet WAN. Ethernet WAN. This every time you hear Ethernet WAN or Metro Ethernet, this is basically connecting different sites within the same city. So using Ethernet frames for WAN communication. So that's it. And then WAN security, encryption, authentication, firewalls, intrusion prevention. So these are just extra information. If you really want to go through everything, just go through. Everything that we have on our website, it's not necessarily meant for exam. Sometimes we provide extra information for you to understand more, so that if you go through all of them, you will have a really good understanding. It's not just for the exam. You will also have good understanding beyond exam. So sometimes it might be also useful if you want to learn further. So when you are taking other courses in the future, when you, let's say you are taking higher levels certificates or examinations, you will already know a lot of things. So not everything is necessary for CCNA exam, but we have information that will really help. So these are different between WAN and LAN. I'm not going to go through all these. If you have any question, just leave a comment. Let's just go through like two or three questions. What is the main purpose of WAN in an enterprise networks? To connect devices within the same local site? No. That to connect multiple LANs, local area, across geographically separate locations? Yes. To provide wireless access to end users? No. This access point. To manage IP addressing within a LAN? No, that's basically that's what led to layer 3 switch or a router. So it connects multiple LAN. All right, that's the answer. All right, next, which device is primarily responsible for connecting a LAN to the WAN? So switch is for LAN only, okay, and the router is for connecting LAN and WAN. Access points is for accessing wireless internet, and bridge is a different device which it's not in use at the moment. So there's no point going through all this at this moment. So the answer is going to be router. You have to remember LAN to when you connect private area to the internet, you use a router to connect to the external network, the internet. All right, this is the last question that I'm just gonna go through because it's getting long. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment. Which WAN technology uses labels instead of IP addresses to forward packets? We have already discussed this. Framed relay is a legacy protocol that it's been replaced by MPLS. PPP is a point-to-point connection, and then HTLC is Cisco proprietary, like Cisco specific for so this is the modern one, MPLS. So every time you need to remember, MPLS is basically which they put labels instead of IP addresses. So you need to remember, and every time when we say labels in WAN technology, it's MPLS. All right, that's the answer. Um, Let me just get one more. So, what type of WAN connection uses encryption to create a secure tunnel over the public internet? What type of WAN connection? We're talking about WAN connection. Lease line, no, it's just a dedicated line. It doesn't provide encryption. It's just you have a private circuit that will give you a separate connection. VPN, I've already explained that VPN normally encrypts all the traffic from your device to the site that you are accessing. So if you use VPN, VPN is for encryption, so it's for security. So not MPLS, is it uses labels. Metro Ethernet is for connecting sites within the same city. So the answer is VPN. All right, it's correct. I don't want to go anymore. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment. Go through everything. Try the quiz at the end, and it should help you give you a really good understanding of WAN architecture. Thanks for your time, and I will see you next time.